What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. All right, moving on to our power rankings. The one drop-off from our 2 weeks ago list are the Cleveland Cavaliers. They are 3-5 since our last rankings on March 18th. They lost to Miami twice. They lost to Minnesota. They lost to Denver. And they have a really bad loss to Charlotte. Bottom 10 in both offense and defense over that span. So we're dropping the Cavs for now. Number 10, gasp. The Los Angeles Lakers are cracking into our power rankings for the first time in forever. 6-1 since our last rankings, including yet another win over the Milwaukee Bucks in Milwaukee without LeBron. Since January 7th, a 39-game sample size, the Lakers are 25-14. That is the fifth best record in all of basketball during that span. Again, over a sample size of almost half the season. They are fifth in offensive rating over that span. Second in three-point percentage over that span. They're shooting over 40% from three as a team since January 7th. They are second in points in the paint per 100 possession over that span. So a really nice combination of accurate perimeter shooting and interior dominance. But here's the most encouraging stat and the justification for why I have the Lakers at 10th in the power rankings. According to Cleaning the Glass, against the top 10 teams in the NBA in point differential, they have 17 wins, which is the most in the league. They have a 55% win percentage, which is the fifth best in the league. And they have a plus 1.5 point differential per 100 possessions, which is the fifth best mark in the league. The Lakers have been one of the very best teams in the league this year at beating the good teams, in addition to playing really, really good basketball outside of a brief stretch. They were 15-9, including the in-season tournament win. They are 25-14 since January 7th, which is the fifth best record in the league over that span. There's a 3-10 stretch there in the middle, which was right when everyone relaxed after winning the tournament. And obviously when Darvin Ham was tweaking with the lineup and taking their three of their top five players out. I'm again, do I think the Lakers are a legitimate championship contender like the teams at the top of the league? No, but we're going to give them a shout out here for how good they've been playing over the course of the last couple of months. At 9, the New Orleans Pelicans. They're losing to the Orlando Magic, Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Boston Celtics since our last ranking, so they're dropping a bit. Obviously, Brandon Ingram got hurt, and that plays a role here. The offense has really fallen off. They're 21st in offense over their last 6 games, and their defense hasn't been as good either. They're down to 9th in that span. Here's the thing. I really wanted to drop the Pels too, but like when you look through the rest of the league is so good, and everyone's kicking the shit out of everyone. There is not a team that I could reasonably put above New Orleans for now, even though I know that relative to most people, I'm lower on New Orleans. There's not even a team that I could reasonably put above them because everyone's kind of hovering around 500 because everyone's really good and everyone can beat everyone. And it's making for some funky results. At number 8, the New York Knicks. Some mixed results since our last rankings. They're 4-3. Had a nice road win over the Golden State Warriors, but they lost to the Denver Nuggets and the San Antonio Spurs. Obviously lost a complete heartbreak to the Oklahoma City Thunder yesterday. Concerning stat with the Knicks, they're just 5-17 this year. In that same list, the top 10 point differential teams on Cleaning the Glass, they're just 5-17 against those teams. Obviously, injuries have played a role. I think like when it comes to the upper level teams, execution and effort and coaching and all those things can only carry you so far when you run into superior talent. And here's the thing, Jalen Brunson has had to do a ton. A lot of guys are being asked to do more than usual, and just getting back your best players will go a long way to helping that. And here's the silver lining. They are 39-13 against everyone else, which means they're building the habits and the consistency in the basketball culture to where if they add in the talent, they should be able to push over the top. Number 7, the Milwaukee Bucks. Also mixed results. 3-3 since our last rankings. 1-3 against the quality opponents they faced, though. They had a nice win against Oklahoma City, but then they lost to the Celtics, lost to the Lakers, and lost to the Pelicans. We can zoom out now and take a look at the Doc experience. Doc Rivers has been the coach of the Milwaukee Bucks for 28 games. In those 28 games, the Bucks are 15-13. That is the 16th best record in the league over that span. If you guys remember, I talked a lot about goals for the Bucks under Doc Rivers. I wanted to see an offensive rating at 120 because I thought they needed to be a truly elite offense to win. And I wanted to see a defensive rating at 115, which I thought was a good mark to demonstrate a good enough defense to get the job done in the postseason, provided that their offense was elite. Here's where they're at. Since Doc joined the team, 115.1 offensive rating. That's 16th in the league over that span. So they've been very mediocre on offense. But here's the silver lining. A 112.6 defensive rating over a 28-game sample size, 11th best in the league. So for, what's that, roughly 35% of the season, they've been a top 11 defense. That's real. That's not something to completely ignore. Overall, they've struggled against some specific matchups, particularly guard-heavy offenses. That's why they've struggled with the Lakers, for instance, right? But overall, they've been really good on that end of the floor. And again, the offense just hasn't come around, but if the offense comes around, that's where it could really take off. And I think, honestly, it's been a little bit of break rhythm with Giannis's hamstring injury. And I think and obviously with Chris Middleton being in and out of the lineup all year. So there's some factors there. They're really good offensively to start the season. I do believe that offense is still in there, but they got to get to that point in order to capitalize on how good they've been defensively. Number 6, the Los Angeles Clippers. They're going against an easier part of their schedule, and they're getting back on track. As a result, they're 5-2 in their last 7 since our last rankings. They got the Blazers twice and the Hornets once, so some easy ones in there. They split a home and home with the Philadelphia 76ers. They did lose an ugly one at home to the Indiana Pacers in that span. But on Friday night, they had one of their most impressive wins in recent months. They went to Orlando and got in this rock fight, this really fun rock fight of a basketball game. And just through really high-level defense and really high-level shot making, the Clippers got a win 100-97 on the road, and they looked more or less like the Clippers. And I thought that was a really encouraging game for them. It's still in there. They just need to recapture it before they get to April. We've seen teams like Denver last year kind of run into similar stretches where they dominate, and then they let their foot off the gas at the end, and somehow they get it going in time for the postseason. That's got to be the mold for the Clippers. Number 5, the Dallas Mavericks. I'm not going to talk too much about them because we just did a whole deep dive on them. Again, Mavericks fans, earlier on the feed, we did a deep dive on Dallas versus Houston and just how Luka's been dominating and how good they've been defensively, all that kind of stuff. You can find that on our YouTube feed. But brief synopsis, Dallas has been the second best team in the league since February 5th. And they're doing it on both ends of the floor. Some really encouraging stuff there. They've been good defensive rebounding and defensive rating over that span. Number 4, Minnesota Timberwolves. They are 5-2 in their last 7 games since our last rankings, including some really impressive wins. They went into Denver and manhandled the Nuggets the other night, albeit without Jamal Murray. Since Karl Towns went down, they started playing way better after they put Naz Reid in the starting lineup. They're now 8-4 in those games. 16th in offense, 6th in defense. Anthony Edwards averaging 26.7 rebounds and 6 assists. I advocated for starting Naz Reid because I thought it was the best option for Minnesota under the circumstances. I like Nickeil Alexander-Walker for particular matchups, but I just figured, especially in the regular season, it makes sense to lean into Naz Reid. Really interesting comments from Anthony Edwards about how Naz Reid and his ball reversal has helped him with his shot selection. So this is a similar thing I've seen with the Lakers, for instance, with Jackson Hayes. The dude catches on the wing and or above the break, and he just naturally, as part of his basketball kind of character, he just kind of flows into a dribble handoff on the other end of the floor, and it helps get the action going from side to side. And Anthony Edwards talked about how Naz Reid doing that for the Timberwolves has helped him kind of like feel more aware of the offensive flow and less dribbling the ball up the floor and shooting, and more running some action and then maybe shooting if the ball makes its way back to him. And I thought that was really interesting and a good indicator of the fit with Naz Reid in the starting lineup. Number 3, the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're 5-2 since our last rankings. They beat the Suns, the Knicks, and the New Orleans Pelicans in that span. Held up pretty well without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, all things considered. Now he's back in the lineup. Really just shined a light on how great Jalen Williams is going to be. Again, we did a deep dive on the Thunder in an earlier segment today. You can find that on our YouTube feed. Number 2, the Denver Nuggets, 5-2 since the last rankings on March 18th. 2-0 with Jamal Murray in the lineup, but in the 5 games without him, they went 3-2. Reggie Jackson just wasn't playing well in the first 4 games in that set, and that was really leading to some mixed offensive results. But Reggie Jackson broke out in a big way against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they looked awesome again. big time win at home over a really good team. Number one, the Boston Celtics, 5-2 since our last rankings. Couple of impressive wins in there against the Milwaukee Bucks and the New Orleans Pelicans. Did have a couple of really ugly losses in Atlanta. The first game, the guards sat out and they went really cold, less than 1 point per jump shot, lost a game that blew a big lead in that game. And then the other, I think it was 2 nights later, they played full strength against, or it might have been a back-to-back, I can't remember exactly, but they went into Atlanta full strength minus Al Horford, and they lost an overtime dogfight to DeJounte Murray, who had 44, including the game winner in that game. Jump shooting was more or less the issue in both games. They took 101 jump shots in both games and only got 107 points. And again, that's more or less the thing with, if there's one rub on Boston, it's like if they go cold with their jump shooting, you can beat them, right? And that's been a consistent theme throughout the season. That's not a hot take. That's just a statistical fact at this point. This season, they've taken 6,667 field goal attempts. 3,744 of them have been jump shots. That's 56% of their field goal attempts, most in the league. So they just have a certain amount of, they have a certain amount of like their fate just kind of tied up in jump shot result. Just kind of the reality of the Celtics. But again, I don't want to highlight the Atlanta wins or losses without making sure we highlight that they got big wins over the Bucks and the Pelicans in that span, although the Bucks sat out some guys. One last note on that front. I watched both of the Atlanta games. And the one thing that bothers me still is like at the end of these games, they don't really have a bully ball option that they can go to get a really good look close to the basket. And so that's the thing. Like, is Boston a better basketball team than Atlanta? Yeah. But if they get into a mid-range jump shooting contest with DeJounte Murray over a small sample size, DeJounte can get hot and make them and beat them, right? And so, like, as long the Celtics more or less have been a good clutch team for most of the season. I'm not trying to like pretend like that success hasn't been there, but we have seen from time to time they can go cold, and when they go cold, they struggle to find alternative methods of offense. But still, at this point, 5-2 in their last 7 games, number one in our power rankings.